Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Recollection Step, a Grand Archive TCG podcast, part of the Main Deck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I am Taylor. Dan, how have you been this week? Actually, you know what? Let's make a concerted effort here to get away from just how have you been this week. I mean, I do want to know how you've been this week, but also what I want to really know is like what you've been playing in locals, because now that I don't have a locals anymore, I'm like, and we've just been out of like practicing in general because the season has slowed down. I'm out of the loop of what like you're playing and what Mitch is playing and what Tony's playing and what everybody else in Fargo is playing. So really, I'm very curious as to just kind of what you guys are doing in the Grand Archive world. So let's start there as well. So like, how are you doing? And also, what did you play at locals last weekend?
Yeah, these days, how are you doing continues to just be, it's chaos, my basement, whatever, you know, like it gets a little uninteresting at some point. It'll be like interesting updates in the future, but we're still not there yet. How I'm doing locally, having a lot of fun right now. I've been jamming Fire CL. I think Taylor, you and I have looked at this list a little bit, and I did play that in 2 events last week. I'm not able to play the full night on our Friday night Grand Archive because I got stuff to go do, but I'm making a really concerted effort myself right now to play at least the first round before I jet, so I can like get something in. And then I'll beat my opponent and then scoop to him when I leave. I've been playing Fire CL. The Fire CL list that we've been playing around with, I really enjoy because we're using Soutirer Vortex, which was my big spoiler ultra rare card from DTR. And I can tell you last week, it was a house. Definitely was playing in some other like late game level 3 decks where I got down the Vortex and completely like stopped their, like they could, I was getting close to dying, but at that point, no longer anything they can do. Every single action drains at least 2, and it just, you know, it's tough to kind of get anything through at that point. So that has been a ton of fun. Locals has been like our locals is even with Rile before Rile was banned, which is of course the big thing we're gonna mention here in this episode. But even before then, our locals was playing like pretty wild, like goofy stuff or exploring a lot of like wind and water explorers and enjoyers. So now it's like we're facing some really good main deck members on like Wind Seiryu, Water Genbu, and then you're never quite sure. You're never quite sure what Tony's going to play. Fire Luxem has been common; it's been seen a lot, but he's been on some different lists as well. He was on CL for a little bit too. So just lots of fire aggros, some suited, like just kind of a little of everything, which it's been a blast, a lot of fun. So I'm sorry, Taylor, that you're not down here with us every week because you'd be having a blast too.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer, but I've been getting some Grand Archive in. Like I managed to get down to Game Center for their store champs last weekend. So that was pretty sweet. And we had talked about Genbu being a cool spot to play, to be in. So I played that, and that was, Genbu was insane. Through Looking Glass in it, through Bauble of Scarcity in it, and through Reckoning's Wake in it. Like Idle Thoughts was already insane in Genbu last season, and Reckoning's Wake is just such a huge upgrade. And that was like, nobody was ready for Genbu. So like, it was just like a super easy store champs. It was awesome until the finals when I ran into Mitch. Like I always do, it's these store champs. And then of course Mitch wins. Like he always does at these store champs. Mitch
has won more store champs than anyone in our area, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, 100%. No question. And that was fun because he was also on Genbu, except he was not playing Looking Glass because he had not been talking to us about that yet. So I felt like really good going into the matchup. And then he just was like, "I'll just kill you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." So congrats to Mitch for taking the store champs down at Game Center. But that was a lot of fun. So but yeah, I would really like to see some of these other brews we've got going on in Fargo. I know I had been down there one weekend a while ago. I forget if it was before our last podcast or not.
It was. Remember the Corona Warp thing?
Yeah, Chrono Warp. Yes. Thank you. Yep. So yeah, hopefully I can, make some time to get down there every once in a while. It won't obviously be very frequent, but yeah, it was a ton of fun. So Star Champs was also a ton of fun. And then I think too, like for the area, there's a couple of bigger events. So not this weekend, but weekend after. As of this recording, there's a Store Champs at Fox Den in the Minneapolis area. There is a regionals in Kansas City, and this is not our area, but it concerns other main deck members. And I think the Virginia regionals is also that weekend, right?
Yes, and then also, this is really important, of course, on October 11th is the Banish Zone regional. So again, anyone in the East Coast, there's a ton of regionals for you to go to. You guys are blessed. Honestly, they're like, I wish we had so many regionals in such close vicinity here. But like you said, Taylor, we got just that one in Kansas City to go to, and then ours isn't until November. But if you're in the East Coast region, head up to this 2K top 16 regional Banish Zone. Going to be an absolute blast on October 11th.
Actually, yeah, our Store Champs though is October 11th though too. So this is, we've got a lot of cool events in the area as well still. So I also misspoke earlier. The Virginia Regional is this weekend, this Saturday, the 27th.
Okay.
Which is sold out, by the way. So if you're listening to this and you wanted tickets, sorry.
Yeah.
But that'll be a fun time for everybody that is going. So yeah, just a ton of sweet high level Grand Archive about to be played, or higher level, I should say. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear that you've been playing like Friday or locals, because you have been, really trying to get good for Niagara coming up. And so just all the reps you can get in is awesome. So I'm very excited to hear you're able to get some extra time in at the shop, getting at least one extra match in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to push it when I can. Definitely going to have to work with the team a little bit here going into Niagara. It's been a while since I've played in an Ascent. I think was Santa Clara actually the last one?
No, Utrecht.
Utrecht was after Santa Clara. Utrecht was after Santa Clara.
Yeah.
True. And what a heartbreaker at the end of Swiss against Glenny Boy, but he went on to make top cut, so we're happy.
Yep.
So yeah. I mean, I'm going to do my best, but it's going to be a bit of a fight. And Taylor, you've been preparing for something not in the realm of Grand Archive for quite a while that very soon is going to be taking place. So I would just shout out to the audience and to Taylor and to everyone. We're all involved. We're all having a good time here because Taylor is about to get married. So if you're on YouTube, go in the comments, leave a congratulations for him, because if you're listening to this on the weekend it's releasing, he might be walking down the aisle right now, and it's super exciting.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's a very big life event. So
yeah, it takes a lot, right? It takes like a ton out of you. It's actually crazy that you even were able to get to a Store Champs.
Yeah, I was like debating the week of before that. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to this, because there was some like last minute things we had to do for the wedding still. I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to happen. And we managed to like cross off most everything off our list. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And Kelsey said, yeah, go do it. It's fine. It's not going to be a big deal. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm excited. I love driving 2 hours each way to lose to Mitch in the finals.
Don't we all?
But no, I mean, I'm glad I was able to fit that in, because that was a lot of fun. But yeah, the wedding's going to be fun too. So, and then after that, I'll be able to like focus a lot more on the game again, which is something I've been, kind of taking a little bit of a break from, just as life has caught up. So, yeah, fun stuff all around.
Yeah, very cool. And of course, another thing that's very cool is our new metagame. Since, we talked a lot about this, our last episode of Recollection Step was a bit divisive. I would say we put our opinions out there and into the bloody piranha-filled waters of the internet, and we had some people who appreciated some opinions, and we had some people who were not so appreciative. And that's cool. That's fine. The thing about opinions is everyone gets to have one. And our opinion was that I think Taylor, you and I really take a really wide view of everything going on in the TCG space, in a metagame, whatever. And I think if I can just say, I think the core difference between us and a lot of people who were very into the idea of Rile being banned is that we just kind of were like chill to explore a new meta for a while, even though we know it's very fire focused, even though we know and we agree that there's a high roll element to it. It comes down to just we weren't as chuffed, weren't as bothered by the fact that by that being the case. And it's whether or not you feel that it bothers you or it doesn't, that's not my place to say anything. That's it's like, go to town. I mean, absolutely, sure. And so when Rile got banned, you and I were like, well, we were kind of having fun, but yeah, I mean, sure. It's and we're like, I think we're gonna take this in the same stride that we took it being not banned, which is like, okay, now what do we do, right?
Yep. Yeah. And in case you guys have not picked up on this yet, this episode is going to be all about what we do in a post-Rile world. So we'll be talking about kind of some of the strongest cards we think are left over from distorted reflections, and how to use them and where to go from there, and how to slot them into some of your decks or build whole new archetypes around them. But yeah, I mean, like I'm still kind of mourning Rile being gone. I know we talked about this a little bit. We did a quick kind of like, experimental deck preview. It was going to be a meta analysis video or deck list video of all the cool decks coming out of like Taipei and some of the other bigger tournaments. But obviously with Rile being banned, that was not good content anymore, or useful content or fun content. So we swapped to kind of just like going over some lists that we think could have some potential in a new format. But yeah, I mean, I said in that video, I still am kind of mourning Rile from that, because it was just such a fun card. And yeah, I know that's kind of like not the opinion that a lot of people had, especially like because of how high roll you could make games. Like you have games where you play a Rile and you discard a liminal and a floating memory, and all of a sudden like that game's just blown wide open. But I also think that Grand Archive is a game that just has an incredible amount of skill expression already, where like 9 times out of 10, as long as the matchup isn't like unplayable, the better player is going to win that matchup. And so having just a little bit more kind of like variance in the game is kind of appreciated on my end, especially like at the local level, because oftentimes like if you have locals with like strong players, those players are always winning. And that's true of every single card game, because like most of these card games are still skill expressive, no matter how much variance they have, right? Like unless you're actually playing war, you have ways to win the game and outplay your opponent. So you're always going to see like the strong players doing well at these events, but it's always fun like when local players who don't win all the time just get to like randomly spike an event and take home first for a week. And Grand Archive is a tournament, or is a game where I see that happening less often than things like Magic or things like UVS. Actually, UVS was that one. Mitch won a lot too, but
he did.
Mitch and Will was a very strong player in our area. But anyway, there's other games that are just like have a little bit more variance thrown in, and you have different players spiking some of these local events every once in a while. That to me really like kind of brings out a lot of fun in it. Not that I don't appreciate what Grand Archive has. Actually, I mean that's one of the reasons why I like Grand Archive so much, is just because the game is very like rewards you playing well, more so than other card games. But like at the same time, there is a bit of a balance to strike, because if I wanted just the better player to win all the time, I would probably just play chess and then also get my butt handed to me there too. But
so what I'm picking up on here is that we had a few commenters who had a little bit of a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that what we were doing was popping on to the podcast to try and tell everyone, no, Rile is fine, just so that we could play Rile and win events with it, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing, Taylor, is that you wanted a shot against Mitch with a little bit of Rile the Abyss. Is that right?
Listen, let's just say that if I had Rile in my deck on Saturday, things might have gone differently. All right. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite comments, just because like so many of our team were on wind and water decks at the major events. It's like I don't okay, whatever. Like
when we went to Boston, we just Corbin and me playing Rile decks, I think. Everybody
it was
else,
just Corbin and you, and you didn't even day 2 Boston.
Didn't even day 2. Yeah, the Corbin and Steve, and was there one other? Mitch, yeah.
Mitch and Steve were on Fractals. We're on water.
They weren't even on Rile decks. Yeah, that was a silly comment.
Yeah, and like I get it though. Like everyone wants to. I want to say a couple of things. I get the frustration, and I think for the counter to what Taylor's saying is the idea that, okay, but then the good players just play Rile and then they spike even more. They win through skill or they win through high roll, and now I don't have a chance to kind of get into the mix. And I mean, again, like absolutely, I think we understand. Like it's a high roll thing. It's really just about taking it in, from that wide perspective and going, we just got out of like a water focused metagame all the way. And it's like, it was just kind of nice for us, I think, just feel like, oh, okay, now let's see what this game is like now when there's a little bit more of a high roll element. There's a variety of fire decks, and like, are there ways to approach this? I like the puzzle, right? I like the going like, oh, wow, that's really good. But is there a way to find a crack in the armor? And that's the thing that gets me excited rather than just getting kind of cranky that high rolls are happening. But that's not how everyone feels. And for some people, their only experience is what they can get going into a locals, and everyone at their locals is like, wow, drawing a million cards is fun. And then they just get high rolled all the time. And so they're having a bad time. So it's like, yeah, like I said, everyone's got an opinion about that, about us, about whatever. You're free to throw them out there. That's the wonderful thing about the internet today. So whether or not you had a bad or a good comment or anything, or you wrote us a novel, we had a few of those, or just a quick comment last time, thank you so much for the engagement. It's all wonderful, and it's great to hear what you all think. And it's a fun part of being in a community that has a bunch of very passionate players like this, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and like honestly, I think like Weebs was correct to ban Rile, just like due to player sentiment. Like there was very clearly like a huge growing outcry. You could kind of see it everywhere where people were commenting or gathering, talking about Grand Archive online. So yeah, it was time for it to go and rip the Band-Aid off and just be done with it. So, and as of that, I'm gonna say my morning can officially be complete, and we will move on. We have completed the 5 stages of grief. I have accepted that Rile is not in the format anymore. And so let's use the rest of the episode, Dan, to talk about kind of what are the coolest, the best cards remaining from Distorted Reflections to take advantage of in this new format. But before we do, can you please inform our listeners and watchers how they can help support the channel and the podcast?
Absolutely. So, of course, thank you all so much for tuning in again. Maybe we pissed you off last week, and I just want to thank you for listening to another 20 minutes of nonsense. Even though we made you mad last week, you guys are the real ones. Thanks for sticking around, or maybe you just had fun either way, or enjoyed the disaster that some of the comments became previously. It's all fun and exciting here, but importantly, it means so much that you guys listen in every episode. You do the likes, you do the subscribes, you do the comments, you do all that stuff. Really do appreciate all of that. That helps us out a ton. If you're looking to help out yourself, help us out, help everyone at the same time, of course, I got a shout out down in the description. There's going to be a link to jwwcards.com, our main sponsor here at Maindeck. We, on JWW Cards, have Phantom Monarchs up for pre-order right now. You can use discount code Maindeck, get 5% off of any prices you see there already. So it's not just the listed price. You get 5% off when you use discount code Maindeck. Get your pre-orders in for that set, because we're about to talk about how there's way more cards than we could even cover in a podcast in Distorted Reflections that are still good, even though we've banned Rile the Abyss. And despite that, we're going to try and limit it still to keep it a small list here, but you can imagine in Phantom Monarchs, how many cards are going to be super, super sick. We already saw Purifying Thurible. We got the sneak peek. That card is super good. You're going to want to get some Phantom Monarchs as well. So if you need a place to buy it, head on down to jwcards.com. Buy it there. Supports them, supports us, supports you. It's what we call a win-win-win.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. But yeah, now we're moving on. There's no more Rile. I think there's like a few cards in everybody's mind that they're kind of like thinking about that are at the top of the list to start trying out, or that they had tried out already. Like some of these cards have seen play already because they're good. And honestly, despite Rile being like by far the best card out of the set, well, Liminal Guide being the best card of the set, and Rile the Abyss being the second best.
Yeah.
These cards are also still very powerful, obviously. And the first one I think is like I think this is the first ultra rare that's really seen a lot of widespread play. Obviously, 3 Visits from Mortal Ambition has seen a good amount of play. I should say first main deck ultra rare. That's like the big caveat, because like there's been some good regalia. But quick aside, like this is kind of one of the things that I've been really curious about, is because oftentimes like with card games, they'll come out and like their highest rarity is often like a really powerful like archetype defining card that most decks want to play a bunch of. And we haven't really seen that for Grand Archive much. We've seen it a little bit with 3 Visits, where the cards, like the decks that care about it, really care about it. But for the most part, you're not just throwing it into every single win deck. Whereas now with Cheshire Cat, we have like an ultra rare that actually can be played in so many different lists just because of how powerful it is on its own. And Cheshire Cat is the first card we're going to talk about today. And it is a 3/3, or excuse me, it'll often be a 3/3, but it's not. Yeah. It's a 1/3 ally, unique, 4/3 reserve. It's exalted, which means you cannot play it unless you have another advanced element activate, norm. And then a bunch of other subtypes that don't really do anything for it. There's a couple synergies it might have, but it has Spell Shroud and Stealth.
Distortion.
Distortion. Yes, we're getting there.
That's the main subtype.
That is important. It is a distortion. Cheshire Cat also has all the activated abilities of Distortion Regalia you control. Cheshire Cat gets plus X power, where X is the total base power among distortion weapons you control. And then, like Dan said, it's a distortion, which means that you can play it with, as long as you control the Looking Glass. It doesn't matter how many advanced elements you have enabled. You can have 0, and you can still play Cheshire Cat at level 0 at Spirit for 3 reserve and get your 1/3 Spell Shroud Stealth. And then there's a bunch of other regalia that do really cool things with this. The main one is Inert Sword, which is a 2/2 sword, which is also a distortion. So it's a distortion weapon, which is going to make Cheshire Cat a 3/3. And so now you're on turn 1, turn 2, before you go to level 1, you often will have a 3/3 Spell Shroud Stealth ally out, which is just incredibly hard to deal with and also very good at controlling the board. And this slots into like any deck because it's norm, right? So like there's a ton of different ways you can play this. It's seen play already in a lot of Crux lists, a lot of Lorraine lists. It's seen play in the Wind Wake Up Allies list, utilizing Ranger Strides to give an ally range 4. And then before you pop the Ranger Strides for range 4, you can have Cheshire Cat also activate the ability of Ranger Strides to give another ally range 4. So now this ally has range 8. You give it distant, you hit for a bunch, and you wake it up. It's seen play there. It's seen play in like CL builds. It's seen play in ally builds. It's incredibly versatile and incredibly powerful on its own. And even if you're not running Inert Sword, which for some reason I'm not sure why you wouldn't be with Cheshire Cat, but just a 1/3 Spell Shroud Stealth is also very powerful on its own.
Yeah, Cheshire Cat is, you led up to this talking about ultra rares, and I think there's definitely some discussion to be had about like the rarity level of this card and its sort of like ubiquity in the format at this point. The big element of Cheshire Cat that makes it not fully ubiquitous is the fact that it does require you to lock your Divine Relic to the Looking Glass. It also requires you to get, I mean, like you said, a 1/3 Spell Shroud Stealth is like fine. It's not bad. It's something that can like stick to the board and help you increment damage onto allies to take them out with some of your other ones. It's a totally reasonable like thing to have, but that alone wouldn't normally make the list. But it's the fact that then you have that, the Looking Glass, the Inert Sword, and the Cheshire Cat, or you're doing wacky combos that have been quite solid in the metagame as well, with the like Wind Wake Up decks that are playing all of the Ranger Strides combos. But it's like you do require committing your Divine Relic another slot at least in your material deck, and then playing these Cheshire Cats in your deck, which is like, so Cheshire Cat was one of my additions to this list because I think this card is like very, very strong. I think it's like clearly worth the cost to pay. But there is a cost to playing it. And it also, in some decks, like you mentioned CL, I've been playing it in CL as well, which I think is very good in, but I definitely look at those opening hands and there's always a debate. It's like, because I really want to get to CL level 1 to get Omens going. And then, so I'm like probably not putting on Inert Sword until turn 3 a lot of games. And then if I play this Cheshire Cat on turn 1 or 2, I'm maybe stopping myself from doing a sort of like card velocity thing with a Creative Shock or a Flam Sorcel, which is the new thing that CL gets to play. And there's a cost to even getting it down in the first place. And then the cost of your material line has to be Inert Sword to get the value at some point. So it's like kind of like locking you into a sort of tunnel of play as well.
Yep.
So yeah, like I think that I guess I wanted to throw out there that there is some discussion about, is Cheshire Cat like a good ultra rare? Like, it's obviously good, but was it good to print at ultra rare when you probably want 3 or 4 copies in your deck, plus you need the Divine Relic from the new set to play it? And then is it just like too strong for what it gives? Because you mentioned this is one of the first like more ubiquitous ones we've seen. And I guess I'm throwing out there that like, yeah, like it might be a problem. I don't know. Like
it might be. Like I will say, like, I appreciate that Weebs has not really like thrown a ton of these kinds of cards at ultra rare before this. Like, I think that helps keep the game very accessible. I mean, it makes like boxes kind of weird to open sometimes too, because like you have a pretty small chance of opening an ultra rare that's actually like useful or worth something, but at the same time, like you don't really want to like prop all that value into one card as well. So yeah, I mean, there's like a give and take there. I like that I don't mind them doing this every once in a while, but this is not something I would want to see like every single set or multiple times a set, right? But at the same time, like ultra rares are also like ultra rare, right? Like, so it's cool when they are powerful in C play because just because like it makes sense that the rare cards are good and it feels good to open them and then be able to play with them. And then also like the ultra rares, now that they have the full art treatments, it's a shame that like more of them don't see play because they're just like beautiful cards that would be awesome to throw down on the battlefield. And unfortunately, not all of them are good enough for that, or fortunately. So, I mean, there's a balance there. But I want to go back to kind of what you talked about with the cost of playing Cheshire Cat, right? Because this is kind of like, I think, the coolest part about the card, or the more like the nuanced part, is that like you can throw it into everything, but the opportunity cost of having to play Looking Glass is like, that is super real. And I think that creates like a really fun deck building tension for most archetypes in the format. Cause like Merlin, Lorraine, CL, especially, like these decks that aren't necessarily going to like shoot to 3 as fast as possible. Well, Merlin often is more often than not, but like Merlin can play a longer game if she needs to, or she's sticking at 2 for a while. It's nice to have like a powerful card like that just gets to sit on the board and help you deal with what your opponent's doing, or even just pressure a little bit of damage as well. Like it adds a lot of flexibility to a game plan, despite also like locking you into a certain game plan.
Yeah, like in that CL deck, when you go the line, when you find the cat and you go the line to put the turn 3 inert sword out, you're actually like, your board clear potential is insane on that turn, because that turn you go from having a 1/3 in play, or maybe you actually just play it that turn as well. Just depends on what you need to play. But you can go from nothing to having a 3 power ally and a 4 power swing, because CL has an omen and gets the class bonus on inert sword. Yep. So that has been huge for me in that deck in the games I've played, just to be able to go, oh, okay, cool. Suddenly I can actually I can get through the Bullfrog and still crack in for damage, or I can take out these Frosthorn Paladin, push that damage, or multiple allies, multiple suited allies, it's been really good. I want to just to keep us moving a little bit here, I want to just put a final pin on Cheshire Cat and say that I think this is possibly the strongest card in the set outside of Liminal Guide or Rile. I think that it being an ultra rare, I agree with you, Taylor. It's it's great to have good ultra rares, but it does make me just slightly nervous. I don't always want to see ultra rares like this. But it's fun. It has what I actually think. I said this the other day and I was like, maybe that wasn't right. But then I thought, no, I think it is. I think it's my favorite art in the game. I think that art is just the colors, the style. Oh, it's just gorgeous. I love it so much. So I love that it is a full art. And I think most of all, it's probably going to be extremely good for a while. And we're probably going to see it in a lot of decks for a while. But I think it's going to age super gracefully. As we continue to get more sets, which all will have some amount of power creep adding to the game, I think it's one of these cards that if you have it going into the future sets, you're never going to feel too sad. I think it will fall out of more decks because they'll find there's a divine relic that they need to play that's more important, or there's a line that kind of gives you the same thing without giving up so much or locking you into playing an inert sword. But then some decks are still going to latch on and be like, no, this is still really good. I think it's just going to age really well because of its relative power level. And so it'll end up, I think, over time being it's great in those decks, just like Carter and whatever are.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this is I don't want to say a Ghost of Pendragon level card, but it's getting there, right?
It's up there. Yeah. It's up there. Now, speaking of Ghosts of Pendragons, another card that Ghosts of Pendragon decks are playing a lot of right now, and it would be hard to make a best cards in DTR list. Again, this is not a comprehensive best cards in DTR list. Let us know the ones in the comments that we missed, because I promise we thought about them, but we just didn't have time. But another one that those lists are playing that love Ghosts of Pendragon is Fluffy Shopkeep. Fluffy Shopkeep is a beautiful little rare, not an ultra rare, not an SR, just a nice little rare you can pick up pretty easily for your decks, that does not only really powerful things just as an on-curve 3-cost 1/3 with, when you play it, you get the ability to draw a card, but you have to give up 2 cards from your material deck to do so. And it has intercept, right? So it does a little bit of everything. It makes the card back. It defends you well as a 1/3. It's the difference between a 2 life defender and a 3 life defender are it's pretty big, which is why Bullfrog is so good, because that buddy's 4. I wish we had time to have him on the list too. But what I like about Fluffy Shopkeep so much is that it is such an interesting role player in the decks that it plays a role in. The one we've seen the most has been Lorraine, which is why I use Ghost of Pendragon as the segue here. But Lorraine decks having the ability to just freely banish some swords, to be able to turn that Clarent reimagined on, or sorry, with Clarent reimagined, to turn that Crux Knight on, right? It's the combination of Fluffy Shopkeep into Clarent reimagined into Lorraine Crux Knight that goes, wow, now we don't have to do any of the hard work we used to have to do to get Lorraine to going all my attacks are +4, +5, whatever. That has been the big impact of Fluffy Shopkeep, and of course we saw its defensive capabilities against Horse and Taxes at Boston. It was so great to see it just holding down the fort. An incredible card to play. But beyond that, we have really fun interactions that people are just starting to scratch the surface of. There's of course the goofy Elysian Astrolabe nonsense where it's cool, let me just empty my material deck so I can go for a super fun infinite combo win. And then my favorite was when somebody mentioned, no, you use Fluffy Shopkeep to banish your Fate Stones in a Guoja deck so that you can use Advent of the Shenju to bring them out. Like, that's ridiculous, but I love it. That's like such a cool idea. So I love this card. It's powerful. It is a role player in the meta right now. It's a meta card, but also it's a goofy combo card all in one. Taylor, I know you're a Fluffy Shopkeep fan, right?
Oh yeah. This, I would argue, actually did more to put Crux back in the metagame than Rile the Abyss. It just does everything that Crux wants to do. I know you talked about Crux Knight, but it's also good with Spirit Ruler. Lets you just put your Drawn Blade into banishment to get back with Spirit Ruler or anything really, without having to take an extra materialize phase for that. You can just go straight to 3 when it's advantageous. Like previously, you had to, like, if you wanted to rush to 3, or you just needed to get to 3 quickly for whatever reason, you had to like bust your Sword of Seeking really fast. And then you don't really get any advantage from going to 3 other than getting a Sword of Seeking back that has 2 extra durability counters than normal.
Right.
And that's just not exciting, or 3, I guess. But getting like the Drawn Blade for free and getting a draw off of your level up is very good. And then of course Merlin loves it too. She gets to power out her Incarnate Majesty faster with that. Ascension just doesn't care that swords are in banishment, so like there's no cost there. Like Fluffy might is like an honorary Crux card. And that's kind of like
Crux is fine.
Yeah, Crux is very fine, and that's my favorite part about Fluffy. But yeah, I think she can see a play in a lot of different decks and a lot of different styles. Again, like just a 1/3 that replaces itself that has intercept for 3 is like pretty powerful when 3 is such a high break point in the game at the moment. Just a lot better than like cards like Honorable Vanguard. It's just a noticeable upgrade from that. And most decks in most matchups will have Regalia that they can get rid of. So it's not like it's a huge cost to actually draw a card off of that. And then there's like the wonky combos you mentioned as well. And like those are more memey than anything else, but it's cool that they become enabled. And you get enough effects like this, then some of those like Elysian Astrolabe combos become realistic, right? Like, and less memey. Mad Hatter, I think, as well, like banishes a Regalia at random on enter. So like we've seen them have other effects like this in the same set. So like, yeah, keep an eye on this one because it stands to get more powerful over time. Even if they like start printing other Regalia that have like impacts from the Banish Zone as well. So yeah, like again, just great card. But I'm not sure if there's anything else really to say about that. It's just solid. It's a good card.
Yeah, it is a solid card, and of course, like you mentioned, just having intercept really makes it good against aggro. But I think we've seen the rise of a pretty powerful new aggro deck, and especially with Rile gone now, it really feels like a good time to bring this up. Taylor, do you want to go over our next card?
Yes. So the next card on the list is 4 of Hearts, which is part of the suited archetype, I guess. But 4 of Hearts is a 4-cost fire ally. It's a 1/3. And it has Cardistry, which is an ability you can activate only once per game. Is a cost 4 reserve, and you draw a card in your memory. Then you put a fire or norm element suited ally with reserve cost 3 or less from your memory onto the field. It costs 1 less to activate for each suited object you control with different reserve costs. So like this thing is busted in half, and the suited deck has like a bunch of different suited allies that have different reserve costs. So it's like you're at first of all, you're only paying 3 for this because he counts himself. Mm-hmm. So you're paying 4 for a 4 of Hearts, and then you're paying 3 to activate it and get another ally onto the field. So if you have 8 reserve, which you will, or 8 influence, which you will if you go second and you have a normal spirit, you can play this and then in the same turn activate him and put another body on the board for free because he's drawing the card into memory as well. So this does not cost you an extra influence to actually commit more resources to the board. And then you get to respond to whatever your opponent's turn 1 play was. And if that was an ally, you probably just get to clear it for free, which is busted. And now they have to deal with your 1/3 and whatever else you have out. So there's that. And then of course, like there's the whole suited synergy as well. So all of these cards have Cardistry effects. Not all of them. There's like Rouge and Noir and a couple of the other ones don't have a Cardistry effect. They just have an on-enter that cares about suited. But anyway, all these cards care about them, like other suited allies. And the ones that have cardistry all get cheaper when you play more suited allies, and it just kind of like compounds on itself and like snowballs, and they all just like team up and just do a ton of damage. So you can flood the board and really overwhelm an opponent right away if they are not prepared to deal with, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 allies on the board in the span of like 2 or 3 turns.
Yeah, Suited has really like proven itself. It was something where a lot of people weren't super sure going into the set whether or not this would pan out, but 4 of Hearts is one of the reasons in general why the deck works. It's that ability to just, the deck is so reliant on building a board, but it's the card that just says, okay, here's your board. Like, there you go. It's done.
Like when this was spoiled, I knew it was just going to be like busted in half, because like it's free real estate, like
yep, it's free real estate.
It does all of this on its own. It does not cost you like any resources at all to commit to this, hardly, other than just like the actions you're going to play on your turn anyway. Like the other suited allies that had not been spoiled yet would have had to have been just like straight garbage, I think, for this to be bad, because that effect is so powerful. Just replacing itself and getting actions, not for free as far as tempo is concerned, but free as far as your influence is concerned, is like incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and thankfully they were not bad. And in fact, Suited has very good allies. Some that get just absurd when the board gets set up correctly, and also some of the strongest interaction, related cards, typo related cards in the game. So Suited's great. I mean, I'm happy to say that too, because I love when I see designs like this a lot in card games where they'll be like, oh, okay, fill your deck with this thing, it's going to be really cool. And they're often just like either turbo busted or they're just like not there at all. Like, why would I play those when I can play good cards?
Yeah. Like your pile of cards, like your house of cards, comes tumbling down too easily oftentimes. Or it's like ironclad, and there's not really an in-between, and I think they hit the in-between here really well.
I think the sweet spot is perfectly hit there, where anyone who likes how Suited plays is going to get to play it and can do well with it. And there's even some variation in like your champion and how you build the deck. That's really fun to explore. And I think we haven't even seen the final form of Suited in the current metagame, but 4 of Hearts certainly is going to be one that shows up in that final form, just because it like I said, it sets everything up on its own. It's one of the cards that just has the card text, like you said, where you just read this and you go, okay, what can't it do? Like, where's the drawback here? There isn't really one. It costs a lot of influence, but I mean, what you get is worth it. So really great to see. Suited is awesome. 4 of Hearts, spectacular card.
Yes. Before we move on to the next one, quick honorable mention to 3 of Hearts in the same vein, because that is not only seeing play in Suited, but it's also seeing play in other like fire decks, especially now that Rile's out. It's a 2/3 for 3 in fire, and then its cardistry costs 3, but it lets you draw a card, then discard a card, and that's it. Pretty simple, but costs 2 with itself on the field, obviously, and then it's like a hasty messenger effect that you only get to activate once, but you get a reasonable body with it too. So it's very strong, very powerful. So keep a lookout for that as well. We might see other suited cards kind of move into non-suited decks as the format evolves.
3 of Hearts is like, if your hasty messenger often only gets 1 attack anyway. So your 3 of Hearts is like, what if I traded the ability to get more discard triggers for just a better body? And it's an interesting trade that it's been cool to see people play that as well. Another card that's cool to see people play is one of the craziest ultra rares from the set that has thankfully been showing up in lists, has been kind of a role player for taking these long games, these attrition wars that we fall into, and kind of easily turning them in your favor when you play this card in your Umbra deck, and that is Devouring Malice. Devouring Malice, boy, what a kind of a Yu-Gi-Oh card text here, but it's worth it. Trust me, stick with me for this. It has an X cost, so you are going to pay as much memory as you want to use this. Devouring Malice enters the field with X gem counters on it and has the ability to rest it, remove a gem counter from Devouring Malice. As a spell, and that's important to remember, I think a lot of people skip that part of the line there, but as a spell, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Put 3 debuff counters on target ally, deal 3 damage to target champion and recover 3, and deal 8 unpreventable damage to your champion and draw 2 cards. So you can use each of those one time. So you don't want to spend more than 3 memory on this unless you're doing something really wacky. But you can use 3 abilities with it, including using one right away. It can take care of an ally on board. It can punch damage and recover you. And it can make you take a pretty hefty damage hit, but not an unreasonable one in the decks that want to play this, to get a large boost of cards with a basically like turning, like it's like a chalice of blood, just draw 2, like boom. Wow. It does a lot, Taylor. What's your experience been like with this so far?
Yeah. I mean, so this is like one of the more narrow cards we've talked about so far, in that it's really only seeing play in CL lists just because he's the champion that can really take advantage of it. But like, honestly, I think we'll see Tristan lists and Diana lists, old Diana lists, start to like consider this more, just because you don't have to play it for 3 to try and get full value all the time. Like, you can just play it as like removal for an ally. You can play it as a drain. Like, those are both really powerful effects that are going to be like totally fine paying 1 memory for. So just on top of like, from that, like it's powerful at that baseline, right? But when you can take advantage of like all 3 effects and just use it to play a long game, it's just dumb. It's so powerful, even though it does cost you 3 memory. Like, that's a lot. But we finally kind of see a way for people to take advantage of like having excess floating memory once they get to 3, because oftentimes like you'll get to 3 and your deck is going to be designed to like dump a bunch of floating memory, because you need to do that in order to like level to 3 efficiently. And then once you're at 3, like this floating memory is not useful anymore for the most part. Like, the few decks can take advantage of it, but generally, like, that was always the disadvantage of Rile, right? Was that you got to 3 and now your Riles don't do anything for you because you stopped materializing things with actual costs. But now you can get this Devouring Malice out, get a huge like boost in resources, and really like just grind out a game, because all of these are like insane value driving plays. CL especially, like, this card is busted. Like, I think even beyond just like getting all the value out of it, CL is also very well set up to just play it for 1, because of Chalice for Blood, like you said, right? So Chalice of Blood requires you have 20 damage counters already on your champion before you can activate its ability. What better way to do that than to put 8 damage counters on your champion yourself and draw 2 more cards on top of that? Like, you just take a turn to materialize Chalice of Blood, you take a turn to materialize Devouring Malice. Now all of a sudden you're up 4 cards on that turn out of nowhere. The card is just like stupid powerful. It's very strong. It's got a lot going for it, and I think it's still very unexplored in how to play with it, especially considering like how many variants of CL there are right now. Like, there's a ton of different ways to build him and his Umbra top end, and I think Devouring Malice slides into almost all of them.
Yeah, I think you make a really good argument. I think this is probably one of the cards on the list that the most people will immediately knee jerk to and think, well, it's good, but it's not like, one of the best. But I think you make a really good argument just for this idea of putting it into your like Tristan list as well, you know how sometimes you just use smoke bombs to get through a stalwart shieldmate that's like in the way of getting a slice and dice, to be lethal or something. Well, now, maybe you already used the smoke bombs. It's been one of those real grindy games, or maybe you want to save the smoke bombs for whatever reason, but you still need to push some damage or something. You can just bring out Malice and just kill the thing instead. Or you can use it against allies that are being problematic. It is a spell, so it's like it can't hit Cheshire Cat. That's an important thing to keep in mind. Anything with Spell Shroud, you can't actually hit with that. But also, maybe you just need to do 3 more damage to win the game, and it actually just does that too. For a single memory or a single float, I can see a lot of scenarios where this is just a sort of flexible card to be holding on to, that can steal more games than it seems like it would.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, all of these abilities are very powerful on their own, and they're things you would potentially slot into your material deck if Devouring Malice did just one of them and cost 1 memory, right?
Yeah.
And now you have the opportunity to put this in your deck, and you can play it. You can pay 1 memory and just do one of these things. You can pay 2 memory, do 2 of these things over a couple turns. It's very rare to see effects that are this powerful and also offer you this much flexibility in like how you apply that power. Oftentimes, like, you're doing one thing and you're doing it really, really well instead of doing 3 things and doing them all really well.
And the big thing we might want to think about going into the future here. So if you're one of our future listeners, you're wearing your like silver spacesuit and your like cyborg glasses and stuff, you have probably already seen what Alice in Phantom Monarchs looks like, and you might be saying, well, obviously Devouring Malice in Alice is the greatest card in her deck because she gets free floating memory and just gets to, I don't know what she does, but like, she's on the art, or no, she's not on the art, right? This is Spirel.
This is Spirel.
Or something. This is Spirel. I always think that it's Alice for some reason, right? Just because she's blonde, but yeah, it's Spirel. But like, Alice is the chessman, like, champion right now, and so I gotta assume when we also know she's on Umbra site in the next set, so we gotta assume like Umbra Alice has a very potential connection to being able to use this card well. It all kind of makes sense.
Yep.
We'll see. But we might be super vindicated in the future.
Yeah. It is a chessman item, and that doesn't mean anything right now because there aren't any cards that interact with chessman items. But presumably Phantom Monarchs might have that. So who knows? Maybe there's cards that let you wake up.
I hope there's not just the rook and the queens and the king in the set. They're like, don't do any chess metal at all. Phantom Monarchs. They could totally troll us and be like, nah, that was the whole archetype. But
that'd be
hopefully we'll get some more interaction.
Yep. But yeah, what's the next card on our list here, Dan?
The next card on our list, Taylor, is one that you and I have been having a lot of fun with recently. It's actually one we mentioned earlier in the podcast, but this is probably one of the more interesting distortions that is starting to see a little bit of play that I think both of us just wanted a chance to talk about. It is of the list of some of the best cards in DTR for sure. That's Bauble of Scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
So Bauble of Scarcity is don't be too afraid of this card just because it has the Umbra element on it. It is a distortion. That means your Looking Glass has the ability to play it. It's very beautiful that way. With the Bauble of Scarcity, you have the inversion of the Bauble of Abundance. 0 cost, but instead of banishing it to have each player draw a card, you banish it to have each player discard a card. Mm-hmm. And when I first saw this spoiled, the thing that I thought right away was, I'm so used to my history playing Magic the Gathering. Fast speed discard effects are like that. They're kind of scary. They can be very, very powerful in the right circumstance. So I immediately thought, wow, like I can't believe they can print that. Of course, it's interesting in Grand Archive because we have floating memory, we have liminal guides, we have stuff that sometimes they're like, oh, cool, I wanted to discard that, right? But also, we have scenarios where players are keeping up very, very exact numbers of cards in their hand to play around very, very specific thresholds of what the opponent can do that turn and what they can do to stop them. Like, okay, I need to hold up, very simple, I need to hold up 2 to keep a Frostbind. But it gets more and more intense than that as you go on. I actually need to hold up 6 right now so I can double in cap to play through this one thing. So just saying, actually, I'd like you to discard 1 right now can absolutely destroy your opponent. And you get to do that in like your recollection phase where you could potentially take advantage of like putting everything down and going, cool, we each discard a card, but I actually don't have any. Maybe they can play something too, but it doesn't matter because all you're trying to do is empty that hand by 1 card that turn. And like, that is a crazy powerful effect. Taylor, you got to play this because you were playing it, I believe, in the Genbu Looking Glass deck. You played the Store Champs that you talked about earlier today.
Yep.
Go off, King. Talk about this card.
Well, I actually didn't materialize it once that day, but anybody who's been got by a blinding orb knows exactly what you were just talking about, though, where you have a specific amount of cards held up and the blinding orb comes down and you have to put 2 cards down. Bauble of Scarcity does the same exact thing, and now you have no defenses. It doesn't, I mean, you're putting 1 card down instead of 2, but if you have 3 cards and you need to play exactly Song of Frost, it doesn't really matter if you're putting down 1 or 2 cards, you're just kind of screwed. So
yep.
That is super powerful. I think also just when a lot of decks are kind of just trying to like grind influence as well, just a random extra discard, I think really throws some of their math off in general. Tristan can get kind of into some weird issues where like she's really just trying to buy time and find some prep counter generators and stuff so she can go to level 3 efficiently. And Bauble of Scarcity is going to make that whole thing more difficult because often like not just Tristan, but win decks will want to play like Windmill Engineer into Ace and Protector, which you need 8 influence to do in a turn. And Bauble of Scarcity makes that more difficult. Any of these high influence plays that decks are doing, it just becomes more difficult. So this is like another card that's got a lot of various applications. And it's not necessarily apparent what they all do yet, but most of those applications are powerful. So, yeah, this is like one I'm keeping an eye on. This is definitely like the biggest sleeper pick on the list, but it's one that has potential to really just pop off.
I think, one thing that we're playing around with a lot is the idea of having lists where you have cards that you really don't want to have in your hand and you really want them to be in your graveyard. And everybody knows like Liminal Guide, right? Which is one of those. But also in, for example, Genbu with Pelagic Fatestone, these are cards that are really powerful when they're not in your hand. Yep. And the reason that like not abundance, scarcity can be really sweet in those scenarios is the ability to kind of get a 2-for-1 on like catching your opponent, like you're saying, Taylor, where you can like get them to have to pitch something at an inopportune time. Or they're a deck that doesn't care about float at all. Like even like a fire aggro deck, just going like, you're down a card, you're off lethal now, you can't get there. That's like, that can be really, really big. But then when it on your side is also going, plus I pitched Liminal Guide. So I'm actually just going to level next turn, draw a card off of it. And I like, that's where it goes, whoa, actually like the value on this got really high, really fast.
Yep.
So it's, yeah, definitely like I think along with Devouring Malice, like 2 kind of sleepery picks that, that I don't know if people would have necessarily expected, but we do have to keep it interesting for you guys, because if we're just like, well, next best card's Liminal Guide, just turn the podcast off. Come on now.
Well, yeah, maybe best cards are not the way we should put it, but like powerful cards, right? Because you think all the cards we've had so far have really powerful effects.
Yeah.
One last thought I want to give with Bauble of Scarcity here is like, oftentimes when decks are like materializing things that cost memory and not just 0, they're keeping like their good cards in their hand and they're putting the cards they want to get rid of in their memory or don't mind getting rid of in their memory, right? So Bauble, if you can, like, there's going to be plenty of windows where you can time it such that your opponent's going to have to discard something they don't want to, and not just like a random floating memory. Which again, like, kind of just adds to like the powerfulness of the effect, where like it forces your opponent to play around it a little bit more if they don't want to lose something important to their game plan. So it just like, it adds another line of playing for you and your opponent.
Have we thought about putting this in Looking Glass, Vanitas, where we can pitch our floating memory right before we activate our Vanitas and also empty their hand?
We did not think about this, but that's very good. Yes. Yep.
This is just an example, right? There's like, I literally just thought of that for the first time now. That's an interesting thing. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But let's move on to our final card on the list here. Taylor, you added this one, and I would have forgotten to put this on, but then you put it on. I was like, oh no, this is like, I've been playing against this a lot because of how much main deck loves Windseru.
Yeah, so this one is Longtail Grovesward, which is a 3-cost wind ally. It's a 2/2 with fast activation. And then at level 1+, it gets +1 life. And on its face, it's like just kind of a plain unassuming ally, because it's just a 2/2, sometimes a 2/3. And you're like, Taylor, we already have a million 2/3s for 3. Why is this one so special? And this one is because it has fast activation, which is like absolutely insane. It's the fact that you can play this at the end of your opponent's turn or in your Recollection for like there's actually no cost to this at all. You don't have to do anything to make this happen. This is just an on curve, an on rate ally that you just get to play whenever the heck you want is bonkers. To me, this is like maybe the biggest power creep in the set, actually, because it doesn't invalidate all the other 2/3s we have, because you still need to play some other 2/3s in a lot of your lists. But this is like should be taking up like 4 slots if you're in the market to be playing any amount of 2 power allies for 3.
It's also really relevant, specifically that it fits perfectly into our Guoja builds, our Seiryu builds, as a 3-cost 2/3, like you said, very reasonable card to play already. The Seiryu lists that do the best play an ally package as well. That's been how it's been. The ones that are performing best have that robustness where they can play aggressively, they can control boards, or they can turbo. And Longtail Grovesward is a guardian, tamer, animal, human, mouse. It's very cute, actually, by the way, that she's a little, probably really tiny, a little tiny mouse girl or something. But she is an animal. She can be forest caked, which is something that deck is already rocking as it's part of its value engine, which makes it even scarier when it's like, surprise, actually, here's a 4/5. Like, I wasn't ready for that. I have had to contend with a lot of these things, not to mention that fast activation. Like, Taylor, you're right. It's just objectively a stronger thing to have in an ally than a lot of the tiny benefits we've seen on 2/3s for 3. It's one of the strongest things you can have. But in Seiryu in particular, because Seiryu has that pseudo agility 1, that at the end of every turn, you get to banish a card and draw a card. Banish a card from memory, draw a card, which means it's just, you want to be able to utilize that to kind of get the full value out of your Fabled Azurite Fatestone. And it's just the exact thing. All of our Seiryu lists have had 4 of this in, because it's just the exact thing. You read that card and like, it might as well say Seiryu class bonus, or Seiryu champion bonus, which like doesn't make sense, but it also does because Guoja is effectively whatever her beast is as a champion. But yeah, it should say Seiryu bonus on it.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, right? But like any ally or any win deck that is going to be playing any amount of allies
it's true.
Are like 2 power allies. It's something they should be looking at. Like, the only deck I can think of at the moment that will probably not play this is Tristan, and that's just because the space is so tight, and like you need your 2/3s to like be giving you preparation counters, unfortunately, instead of just coming in at fast speed. But like
Tristan is a value oriented mid range deck.
Yes.
And while this card, we get into this discussion of allies, how much value do they create with their ability to clear space on the board and everything, and like, whatever. But like, Tristan is such a popular deck for people also because it is so clear in how it signposts what value is in Tristan. And value in Tristan is either cards or prep counters. And when your allies don't do those, they're very hard to justify.
Yep. Yeah, like you're willing to pay 4 for a 2/3 because it gives you a prep counter. And you like, so that's how it works there. But like Lorraine decks, any sort of just any of your ally decks, Wind Luxum is one I could see playing something like this, even just because that is also like pretty value oriented, but they play to the board a little bit more earlier in the game, and they also just like are totally happy to just sit there and like accrue influence and react to what their opponent's doing. And so if their opponent doesn't do anything they need to react to, they can just play a Grovesward instead of not doing anything with that influence. So like really this is going to slot into a ton of different win decks. And yeah, it's just, to me, it's wild that this got printed actually, the more I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very crazy. You do make me think, though, if Tristan just got agility 3 and was able to just like rock these out and go faster than everything.
It's actually like so close to being good in Tristan.
It's close.
But like if the list was not so tight, you could play it. The main issue I think is just the space just does not exist for it to be slotted in, but like it goes with the game plan really well. Because like Sadie, like we said, Sadie is going to give you 3 extra cards to potentially play this with, right? And oftentimes in Tristan, those cards kind of go unused. In Windluxem and Xander, though, there's a little bit more potential for that to see play and for you to use those cards to play a Grovesward instead of whatever other random win stuff you're doing.
I really like this in Windluxem, actually. I think that's really smart, just to when you can get that Sadie agility trigger, it just gives you so much ability to, like, that deck really wants to be able to switch modes between playing allies and going long game, and it does that really well with in conjunction with Sadie. But Taylor, we've reached our time limit for today. We have talked about 6 cards that you and I think are incredible cards that will fill the abyss left by Rile the Abyss. I think some more obviously than others, but some will be ones that are clearly going to outperform, I think, people's expectations now that we have this opportunity for people to explore things that aren't just pitching Spectre cards.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, like, this is not like our list of, cards that you're like, this is not a list of hot takes, right? These are cards that are, most of these cards are already seeing play and like a good amount of play, as they should be, right? But these are the things I think that are like powerful enough for you to be thinking about building more archetypes around, or like trying to just refine what's already being played, finding new ways to utilize these cards, because these are like just objectively like some of the more powerful things you can be doing in the game versus like, I mean, Rile the Abyss is like super powerful, but I guess I don't really have a good counter example as to what you could be doing otherwise. But I mean, these all just do things. Like, they do really powerful things, like there's cards that say draw 2 cards here. There's cards that say play an ally for free. There's cards that has stealth and spell shroud and hits for a ton of damage, and also like just randomly gets to like make your opponent discard another card or give something else +4 damage for a turn or something. Like, these are all just really like value packed cards. Not value packed, but like they do a lot of stuff and they do it well and they do it powerfully. And these are we've already seen the format adopt these and move forward with them.
And yeah, like I said, I've said it a few times, but I'm just trying to head off some of the comments. There are a million other not a million, that's not true, but there are dozens of other extremely good cards in Distorted Reflections. So what I want to hear from you all is down in the comments below. Of course, leave a congratulations if you are excited for Taylor's step into the married life. You get to hear all of our hey, how's the married life going, buddy, for a while, which will be fun. It's part of the deal. We have to do that. But also let us know in the comments down below which cards we were absolute buffoons for not talking about in this very short amount of time that we had to talk about a set that might be one of the strongest sets Grand Archive has ever had. Let us know, though. I mean, I'm sure you're mad about something. Let us know what you would think we should have talked about in the comments down below. And Taylor, why don't you take us out of here until next time?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for listening. And like Dan said, why don't you leave us a nice 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. But that's about it. So we'll see you in the next one, guys.
Bye, everyone. Have fun at the wedding, Taylor. Actually, I'll be there too.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, see you soon.